Thank you so much, Kat. And I was able to listen to part of Dawn's presentation, and I just wanted to say it was great to hear um, presentations that also include comorbidities that include mental health. And I think it's such an important topic, and it's something that I'm a huge advocate about, which you will hear from my presentation as well. But hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Shaw. My pronouns are she and her. A visual description of me is I am a light-skinned Black woman wearing a brown, white, and black head wrap, clear glasses, very colorful. There we go, very colorful earrings. I have black hair in two braids and a white top. Um, some of you may know me. If you do not, most of my advocacy started off with in the migraine world. So I do live with chronic migraine. I've been living with chronic migraine for about 10 years now. I also live with endometriosis and my friend anxiety. I used to work for the Global Healthy Living Foundation, doing a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I'm involved in a lot of different advocacy organizations. And I'm so glad to be here today talking to you about the complexity of juggling chronic illness comorbidities. So I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's hope it works. Please hold. Can everyone see my screen? Is it working or did it go away?
We saw it for a second and now we have a little bit of a black screen.
Okay, let me try that again. Okay, how about now?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, okay, wonderful. Okay. So the topic is juggling chronic illness comorbidities. And as someone who was unfortunately recently in a very traumatic car accident, I was re-reminded about the stress of juggling chronic illness comorbidities. And I thought, you know what? I think this is a really important topic for us to dig into. I think there's a lot of different barriers that exist when you live with multiple chronic illnesses. And I'm so glad that we're talking about this, because I feel like the world sometimes thinks we're in these buckets of you're only living with lupus and you're only living with chronic migraine and you're only living with some mental health struggles. And I just appreciate, I think when I first came onto the scene, when I first was diagnosed with chronic migraine, I wasn't thinking about it in terms of mental health, or even when I was even dealing with my endometriosis. And I think I learned early on that, unfortunately, well, for me, some people are different, but for me, I really needed to hone in on what is going to help make me not just a better advocate, but just a better person to help manage everything that's going on in life, because there's so many different things that are coming at you, whether it's work, your personal life. To add chronic illness into the mix is already difficult, but adding multiple chronic illness comorbidities is a whole other ball game. So let me just take you through some strategies that I've come up with, to kind of help navigate through the fun of this. So some core strategies for management. I broke it down into three key pillars. One, my favorite, well, okay, it's mixed bag. Tracking and monitoring symptoms, flares, and triggers. And I'll get into like why it's sort of my favorite, but also like my most annoying thing that I think I have to do. Medication and treatment tracking, things such as pill organizers, setting alarms, doctor communication, and then balancing daily life, energy management, scheduling, and most importantly, not forget self-care. I know that, people say self-care, self-care, but I really mean it. Like, I think when you live with a chronic illness, not just one, but multiple, mental health is such an important thing that we I think we that we also in society forgets that comes along with it. I feel like dealing with a chronic illness comes with its ups and downs, and I think we're just expected to be fine, and be like, okay, and resilient and all these other things. And I'm sorry, I am not resilient. I am just somebody who just so happens to be living with multiple chronic illnesses and just trying to navigate my way through life. Okay. So getting down into tracking symptoms and flares. When I was first diagnosed with chronic migraine, I was did not track. I was, and I'm not gonna say, I think for me, in the beginning, I was like, okay, like I was having one, two, three migraine attacks, and I wasn't in my doctors, you go to the doctor's office and they're like, how many, migraines have you had this month? Or in the last, I think I remember it used to be in the last 3 months. Um, and I would be like, I don't remember. I just know that I'm in pain. And I think I was pretty stubborn for a while where I just wasn't tracking because I was like, it didn't make sense. And then eventually, when I became very severely chronic, where I was having 25 to 30 migraine attacks a month, I was like, why am I tracking this? Because it fills up my whole calendar. Like, what is the point? And I think when I started to think about my chronic illness as a whole, with my endo, with my mental health and anxiety, chronic migraine, and then all the medications that I was taking, it was getting to be too overwhelming. And about 4 years ago, when I had my first panic attack, that's really when I went back into, okay, I'm on anxiety medication, I'm on migraine medication, I'm on medication for my endo, and I'm going to all these doctor's appointments and they're asking me all these questions, and it's really important for us to be able to communicate back and forth about that. And so I really got into tracking on the physical on the physical aspect. So probably asking Sarah, like, I don't really want to track. Why is it important? Like, I'm chronic all the time. I think if we look at it as we're helping identifying patterns, like, you don't have to say, like, if you're somebody who wakes up every single day and you're in pain, we can condense it into something where you do like a dot or something on your calendar, and then you can talk about maybe some symptoms or medications that you have taken. But I think it's really important that we have some aspect of tracking, especially if you have multiple chronic illnesses, so you can communicate that with your doctor. And that's what I said, it's very useful for doctor visits. Also, if you're somebody who lives with a chronic illness that is triggered by certain foods or the weather or stress. I'm always stressed, so I'm always flaring. But I think I've gotten to a point where I'm able to manage it a lot better. So, tracking methods. I go back and forth. I feel like I go between being old school where I use like a paper journal or like a calendar to write things down, but then I also was really big a couple years ago into using the digital apps such as and it depends on your preference. I know some people, want to be more safe, and I completely understand that. And sometimes the apps can get annoying, or they're tracking your information, and so that's where I like to use something. I don't know if you can see. So I use this calendar for like the smaller things, and I will write that down. There's also, if you're like, hey, I want to like really get tracking, you can do a spreadsheet. I'm not at that level yet, but kudos to people who want to do that. So I feel like if you just are able to create some sort of tracking with whatever, however it works for you. It's really important to be able to have um, uh, that way of tracking to, especially to show with your doctor, but also to learn more about yourself, about what makes you flare, and to keep track of medications, of what you are can and cannot take. For example, um, right when I right after the car crash, I was taking a lot of different medications, and as we know, we have to be careful about medication adaptation, headache, and the tracker, as annoying as it was for me, and how much pain I was in, it was really important that I was able to track how often I was taking medications, what my symptoms were like, because I was diagnosed with a TBI and I was really struggling with my memory. And so for me, when you have for someone who has brain fog, being able to write those things down is very, very helpful to um, just be able to track that. And I'm going to go into my next slide, which something that was really helpful for me when I experienced my first panic attack. So, creating a symptom tracker. How do you do it? What do you write down? What do you include? You can include things such as, and it's important for me, I write down the date, maybe what my pain level was for some. I know there's a lot of people in the community who use things such as red, yellow, um, or green days in terms of pain. I think if you're able to create a system that works for you, it doesn't have to be on a scale of 1 to 10. Like I sometimes use that, and then I sometimes use the red and yellow and green days because it's just easier. You can include things like fatigue, maybe how you reacted or how long it took you to experience relief from a medication or one of your abortive medications. Also, writing down what medications maybe you have taken, and then triggers. Something I'm going to shout out Achy Smile Shop because when I first started experiencing panic attacks back in 2021, it was really important for me to be able to communicate that with my psychiatrist about how often I was having panic attacks, how severe they were, along with my chronic migraine symptoms and my endo symptoms. And I was really struggling to keep it all together. I was using like I think I showed this before, this little calendar. I would write things down like anxiety attack, but I didn't have enough space to like write down maybe how long it lasted, how severe it was. This is easy for me to come and like take to my doctor. And Achy Smile Stop Erica reached out and shared that she has this really beautiful and wonderful tracker. I'm someone who likes to write things down. If you're not someone who likes to write things down, you can use the apps or even your notes apps on your phone, or in your calendar, which can be kind of complex. I think it's however you prefer to do it, but just being able to create a way to track, I think, is really important. It tells you a lot about how things are going, whether you're more baseline, whether you're um, uh, uh, improving or staying the same. I love this picture because I feel like that's like me, like looking for what caused this or what are my common triggers. So identifying triggers and patterns. I think being able to identify maybe what caused it, and as we know with chronic illness, sometimes existing is what is causing your uh, symptoms, but including things like weather, maybe if you didn't sleep very well or if you slept too long. I know sometimes when I sleep too long, it can trigger a migraine attack. And then you can use that information in your tracker to kind of like adjust your habits based on that information. Okay, my favorite, medication and treatment management. If you're someone like me, let's see if this is yes, I carry when I travel this pill tracker. It wasn't something that I thought I would need to do early on in my journey, but as the symptoms added up and the chronic illnesses started to add up, I was forgetting to take medication. I was like, wait, what did I already take this pill? I'm not really sure if I like remember that I did that. And it was getting to be a bit of an issue too, because if you miss a pill or if you miss an injection, and I know you can't use like a pill organizer if you have like an auto injector or even a needle. Um, and we'll talk about how to like incorporate that into your systems. But just being able to see, I'm a very visual person, being able to see that. I also have a little cute medicine cart where I put all of my pills, and I have what I have every Sunday night. It's a ritual. I sit on the couch, I like lay out all of my pill bottles, and I put on a show, and it's really, I don't know, it's actually become part of my self-care, is just sitting on my couch on Sunday night and setting up mine is a weekly one, my weekly pills. And I'm someone who needs to take pills in the medication in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and it becomes better for me to just to be able to visually see it. And the other great thing is that I'm able to travel with them. It's rather than bringing, I don't even know how many bottles I have. It might be 15 different pill bottles with me when I travel. I can then just bring this cute little pill organizer that has an AM and PM compartment. And again, I only started doing this like 3 years ago, and I think really thanks anxiety. Like my anxiety really revved me up to be able to more seriously track what was going on, how I was feeling, and the pill tracker has been a game changer for me. So they make weekly, they make monthlies, whatever, however you feel is going to work for you. That's something that I was able to incorporate into my treatment plan. Okay. Okay, now you're like, okay, Sarah, I set up my pill bottles, but I'm still forgetting to like take my medication. Me too. It's hard. It's hard. And I forgot to say in the beginning when I think we have to take a step back too, because if you're someone who is living with multiple chronic illnesses and symptoms, we have to like take a step back and like pause and like be gentle with ourselves. And that is something that I am not very good at. I forget to remind myself that we are people that are dealing with multiple things that other people are not dealing with. We are waking up every day with something that the general population most likely is not dealing with. Or if they are, come on into our community and we'll help and support you. But I think, being gentle with yourself is a really good reminder, also when you're dealing with that. And that cues into my next thing of setting reminders and alarms. I forget to take my meds. Something that recently came into my treatment plan was adding afternoon pills. And before, I was just someone who was taking treatments in the morning and in the evening. And I just kept missing my afternoon. And I would always feel it when I would miss that. I would become more brain foggy. I would have more pain flares throughout my body. And I was like, I was very, again, I think I'm stubborn. I'm hard on myself. I was like, I don't need an alarm. Like I can remember. And after a few months of not remembering to take that, I was like, okay, that's it. Like I have to set that afternoon alarm. You can also use, I was talking to a couple other people. Some people use their smart technology in their homes, hey Alexa, remind me to take my meds. I don't have an Alexa or Google or whatever those things are, but I'm old school. I put the alarm on my phone. Um, if you can make it, some people can put it into your like Google Calendar or Apple Calendar to set an appointment to take your meds. Whatever it is that's going to help you remember, I think is important. And there's no shame in needing an alarm to remember to take these medications. A, Another big game changer for me was, I mean, how many times have you gone to the doctor and, or new doctor, I should say, and they're like, list your medications, and they have like a tiny little line for you to write out your medications, and I'm like, there's no way this is fitting. For me to do that. And something that I incorporated a few years ago was, and I did it on Canva, and if you want the template, email me, I will send it to you. I created this medication log where I put down the name of it, what the dose is, directions, maybe how often you're taking it, and then notes about, like for me in the notes section, I put like what it's for. And I take that with me every single time I go to it, especially when I go to a new doctor or if I get medications changed or taken away. I know that now a lot of things have been transferred online, like MyChart or things like that. And that is an easier way. You can just click and write in the medications that you're taking with your doctor and it's transferred immediately over. But if you're working in an office that hasn't incorporated that, a medication log is really great. Another thing that I didn't think I would need to do, but I've incorporated too, is using those auto refill sections if you have like a pharmacy that participates in that. And if you're someone like me who forgets, putting in reminders in your calendars about, hey, I need to refill my Ubrelvy prescription or whatever prescription. For me, I'm someone who never needs a reminder about that specific one, just because um, I run out constantly. Um, and again, like I said, the updated medication list that you're able to share with your doctor. Um, Handling side effects and interactions. I was someone in the very beginning where I of my journey where I was a bit ashamed about some of the side effects that I was having, and I really kept that to myself. And I think when you're first starting out, not even being living with chronic migraine, but kind of actually handling chronic, like handling your chronic illnesses, I think I think it's hard for us in the beginning to be able to speak confidently about how everything is affecting you. And over the years, and as I've become more confident in being an advocate, I've become a lot more open in my doctor's appointments about talking about interactions or side effects or how something's making me feel. And another thing, which I'll get into a little bit later, even how my mental health is. And something that I really appreciate about my headache specialist is she always makes sure to talk to me about how my mental health is in conjunction with my chronic illness. So I go in for migraine, we talk about that. And then at the end, we also talk about how my anxiety is, because if my anxiety medication is interacting with one of my other medications, that's something that's like really important to bring up. And it can be a little bit, it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but I feel like ever since I kind of, one, when I came out publicly, I feel like I kind of like dropped that, like I gained more confidence in being able to talk about things that I think society deems as more taboo. And I don't see mental health as taboo. Like I'm like, talk about your mental health. We have to normalize talking about it. Um, Also, it's important every time you start a new medication to talk to your doctor about that. Or for me, like sometimes there's a medication that I don't take every single day to manage some of my other symptoms. And I forget sometimes where I'm like, do I need to stop one of my medications for another chronic illness in order to treat my endo in order to treat my traumatic brain injury or my hip issues or things like that. So I think you can use tools like drugs.com, the interaction checker, but I always just make sure to, whether it's a my chart note or speaking in person, to just verify and ask about that, because you just never know, and it can't hurt to make sure that we're being like careful about treating those symptoms. Okay. Now we're getting into, okay, Sarah, you've taught me and shared what you've done for like the daily management, but like let's talk about like balancing like daily life and how that affects everything that's going on. Energy. Okay, I know, I'm pretty sure most of you, but if you don't know, everyone's familiar with the spoon theory. I know when I first started off, I had no idea what it was. I like to use battery levels in terms of uh, uh, communicating with my partner or my mother-in-law or even other people in the community. My battery is really low. And so the spoon theory is something that a lot of people in the chronic illness community use to talk about so a spoon equals energy, uh, how many spoons do we have to complete a task? And for someone who lives with chronic illness, especially one that includes things such as fatigue or um, uh, that is just very exhausting. I don't think any of us really start the day with a full battery. I'm gonna be like, I can't remember the last time I started my day at like 100%. My phone has more battery than me. And so taking that into consideration, where you know you're not going to start your day with a full battery, we have to sit down and go through, okay, what is it that I'm doing today? I'm doing childcare? Am I making lunch for the kids? Am I going to work? How many spoons and energy does that take? And there are sometimes things that we have to think about that we may need to take off of our plate and put on to other people in our support system, or taking a step back and saying, you know what, I can't do this today because I know this will trigger a flare, or I know, and this is something that takes time to learn. It's not something that you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to be like, all right, like I know how to do this, because every day is different, everyone's situation is different. And so I think, just seeing how everything, just pause there, just seeing how everything interacts with what you're doing, and just, going with the flow. I think we're really hard on ourselves, and using things like battery levels and the spoon theory to assign that to tasks. Like there's a pile of laundry sitting next to me that I had to take a step back and say, I don't have the energy to be able to do that today. I can do that over the weekend, or I can do that a week from now, because it's, you have to just, we are dealt a different card. And I think social media makes it very difficult. I think, I know for me, I see a lot of people that are going out and doing all these things and have pristine houses. And I'm like, I don't know the last time I had a pristine house. But I think being able to take a step back and know that we're starting a little bit at a deficit and being able to work around that. Oh, adaptive scheduling. So kind of like I was saying before, being able to break tasks into smaller chunks. Something that I had to learn after the car crash is that I cannot go at the same speed that I was going before the crash. I walk with a cane now. I can't walk up steps, and so everything takes a lot longer now for me to do. And so being able to break the things up that I used to be able to do, something as simple as washing dishes. I don't love washing dishes, but it's something that I'll do to pass the time. I can no longer stand for very long. And so it's weird for me to go to, oh, sorry. It's weird for me to be able to go from I could stand for a long time and wash dishes and my hip wouldn't hurt. Now I can no longer do that, or I don't have the energy to do that. And so I would go to a sink, wash a couple dishes, and leave, and the sink would still be not completed. And that, for I struggled with that for a lot, and I would push myself to the point where I would have bad flare-ups when I would push myself to do everything in the sink. Or uh grocery shopping now takes much longer, and sometimes it's, you know what, I just need to run in, get some bread, get some milk, eggs. What is it? That's the milk, eggs, and bread. That's what you get like when there's a storm coming. But just being able to break that up, that's all the energy that I have. And then also flexible planning, leaving buffer days for flares prior to prior to not being diagnosed, but prior to living with chronic illness. I could travel no problem. I would leave early and get where I was going, and is it. I cannot do that anymore. And something that, my partner and I um incorporated into our travel plans is leaving a we call them travel days, like leaving one day for travel where we just don't do anything once we get into wherever we're going, or like maybe we're getting dinner, but we're not doing a big activity or anything like that, because if we do that, it would set me into a flare for the rest of the time in the place that I was visiting, and that was really a bummer. And so we were able to incorporate giving us breaks in between whatever activities that we had planned when we're on vacation or we're traveling for work or something like that. And so even you don't even have to be traveling to buffer in days for flares. If you know you're having like a big family activity, like a barbecue, or a friend invites you out for dinner, knowing that maybe the next day you're gonna have a flare, make sure you try not to book a bunch of things on that same day, because then you'll you it you it will be worse for you. Apologies, I said that not in the best way, but you get what I'm saying. Now my favorite part of talking about anything, I will yap all day about the importance of mental health, the importance of normalizing talking about mental health. I was very ashamed for most of my life. I would say only until probably 2021, where I felt a lot more comfortable talking about the fact that I li I struggle with my mental health. I struggle with anxiety, things that I used to be able to do in the beginning. I was really struggling to even like get up in the morning and get out of bed. And that wasn't like me. That wasn't like who I used to be. And I think what really brought me a lot of support was just being able to lean into the community. And I mean, you all are amazing. And I think being able to have that community support of it not being it not being something that anyone judged me for really um, prompted me to be like, you know what, like if this community can accept that, the world needs to accept that. And so I just start talking about anxiety and mental health. And we all know that it's lonely, right? Going to doctor's appointments, dealing with flares. Sometimes we're in bed for days, sometimes we're in bed for weeks. And sometimes the only amount of support that we have is our online communities. And so I put that down as something that has helped me tremendously. Is when I first started off, I was very alone living with my chronic illness and migraine. And I started just speaking out anonymously online on formerly Twitter, RIP. And there I found a wonderful community. That's what led me to chronic migraine awareness. That's what led me to a lot of amazing people that have become my friends over the last 10 years. And I think there's a lot of power in community. And so yeah, leaning into chronic illness communities, chronic illness organizations like um, uh, 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 chronic migraine awareness, support groups. That was something that helped me a lot in the beginning. And then I decided, you know what, I want to create my own. And I created a specific group for Black, Indigenous, and people of color living with chronic illness, which will be relaunching next month, which I'm really excited about. So be on the lookout for that if you see me on social media. And then something else that I think people get a lot of flack for, but I think is really important, boundaries. I think as a former, but also I still struggle with this, a former people pleaser, I struggle with saying no. I often over extend myself, and I've really been leaning into working on what I can and cannot do. And that even includes dealing with boundaries with possible friendships or family members. Probably our favorite discussion topic, being able to say, you know what? No, I can't make a full dinner for Christmas. Like, I know you expect that from me, but that is something that I cannot do because that will cause me to have a complete flare out. Or I'm trying to think of like other examples that have happened to me recently, but just being able to know that like your time needs to be respected and your health needs to be respected, and being able to um, assert yourself, which again takes time. I'm still working on that, but I've been doing like little things because you have to protect your peace, you have to protect your health, and more importantly, especially with everything that's going on, like you have to preserve you. And the only way you're going to be able to be you is if you are able to, have that space to heal and recover and get back to baseline. I'm not saying say no to everybody, but I'm saying I think sometimes when we live with chronic illness, we have to go down the list and say, you know what, I can't do that, or I am putting too much energy into this and I need to put some of that energy back into myself. Okay. Troubleshooting challenges. Um, it's overwhelming, right? What to do when everything feels overwhelming? Like adjusting maybe your trackers. Maybe if you're like Sarah, like um, oh, I see we have uh a poll. Were we doing the poll in the middle, or I didn't? Okay, I'll wait for that to pop up. Uh, if you're someone where I showed you that
Oh, I'm sorry if that is that messing up your. I apologize. It usually, I guess, it does with the shared screen. I usually try to hopefully that it just kind of happens while you're talking. So,
no, no problem. I just didn't know because if I was sharing the poll like responses.
yeah, we'll give it a little bit of time, and then we can do
Perfect.
that. We can do that when
Okay,
you.
okay. Just I wanted
Yep.
to make sure I wasn't
Sure,
missing
absolutely.
anything. All right. So yeah, trackers, right? The tracker that I showed you, were like, Sarah, that's a book. Like, I don't have time to fill out a book. I mean, let's be honest. Like, our time is very precious. And so if you're like, you know what, like I can't write down everything, I think being able to adjust it, like I created like a system where I would just do like a red dot or a green dot if I'm like I don't have the energy, like I'm just in a complete bad day. You can put that and put that on your calendar or just write something in your notes app or do something like smaller and condensed. Um, the second bullet, I'm very bad at, but I'm learning, and that's the beauty of being human. But asking for help and delegating tasks, like even today, I'm gonna use a real-time example. My wife, like just getting ready. I just come back from traveling and I hadn't eaten, and I was like making my food and she was like, "Why didn't you ask me to do that for you? I would have done that." And so that's a something as a simple task of being like, "Hey, can you help me make my lunch because I'm just feeling really fatigued and I'm in a migraine attack or I don't have the energy." And that's something that's still really hard for me to do, even if it's something as I know I think one of the beautiful things about like mutual aid in the community and something that I learned from like one of my friends, Neha, is, you know, trying to speak out when you need help. She created a system where her friends do meal deliveries for her because cooking is just, too much. And I used that after the car crash because there was just n not enough time and energy, and we were just so sick and in so much pain. And so that felt very foreign to me, very uncomfortable for me to ask the community for help. And it was a really beautiful thing that I think we forget about as a community. We are all here for each other, and we're all passing, it often feels like we're all passing around the same dollar bill to each person. And it doesn't have to be money. It could be, hey, if you know someone, if a friend or family member, I'm really struggling with cleaning, do you mind coming over and helping me fold some laundry? Or I don't have the energy to water my plants. Or if there's things that you are doing on the computer that you think you can delegate to somebody else to just help out. I think you'd be surprised at how helpful we all are to one another. I know for me, the community has really, when I've been job searching, the outpouring of support of people sending me job postings, and that was really hard for me to do. And so anyway, so I'm going on a rant. But something else that's a really cute thing that I love doing is having like, and if you don't like the word accountability, I completely understand. I was trying to think of a cuter term for it, but an accountability buddy or a support buddy, like someone who is checking in with you like every week to, see how you're doing. Did you struggle taking your meds today? I've been bad at it, but when I was looking when I was looking for jobs, I me and a friend from the community, Alexis, we were, checking in with each other about how our job search was going. And I think that can transfer over into chronic illness and seeing what we as a community need. And I think that's what's going to help us get through everything that's going on. Also, if there are options where one of your meds maybe is something that you take multiple times a day or can be condensed into one pill, that's something to talk about with your doctor. I know I really enjoyed when I did my it didn't work for me when I did the injection. Um, um, it was something that I only did once a month, and that relieved a lot of the other pills that I was taking during the week. And so definitely, have these conversations with your doctor, and also don't be afraid to have conversations with all of your, and I think I forgot to mention this, having conversations with all of your doctors who manage all of your symptoms is really important because they need to know everything else that is going on with your symptoms, because there may be something that they have overlooked, not they, but like maybe it's something that was overlooked because it's something we haven't like brought up or spoken about. Okay, so just some recaps. The first thing, small steps, right? If it's, four main strategies that I like to say are track, organize, adapt, and my favorite, community. One small step, pick a new habit, whether it's putting an alarm on your phone, on your calendar to remind you to take pills, or even like check in with someone in the community, starting a small symptom log on the Notes app on your phone. I think that there are definitely ways to kind of help manage uh, new patterns, because I think the more you do it, the more it becomes repetitive and it becomes something that you're able to incorporate into your daily life. And small steps are okay. They don't have to be big. These things that these new things that we're adding into our lives.